Chapter 5. Joining Seas. 17 April 2009. Minato slowly opened his eyes and immediately regretted doing so. The bright light of the sun reflected off the white curtains, sheets, and pretty much everything else in the room. He turned his head to the right and saw Hamuko was also just waking up. The younger twin slightly tensed up a bit as she gathered her bearings before she spotted the older boy staring at her in concern.
"You're both awake."
Yukari's voice made the twins turn to look at the brunette sitting in a chair placed between their beds.
How do you feel?"
she asked as she stood up to get a better look at them. Hamuko wore a slight frown as she looked around the white room.
"Where are we?" "Thank goodness. You finally came to..."
Yukari let out a relieved sigh.
"How much sleep do you both need? It's been a whole week."
She paused and sheepishly looked away.
"I was so worried about you."
As if suddenly remember Hamuko's question, her eyes scanned the room too.
"Oh yeah, this is Tatsumi Memorial Hospital. It's just a short walk from the station."
Minato tried to his best to stretch out his stiff neck.
"Why are you here?" "You saved my life, you know. So I couldn't just leave you here."
Yukari pointed towards the door that was along the wall next to Hamuko's bed.
"The doctor couldn't find anything wrong with the two of you. He said you were just exhausted. But you kept sleeping and sleeping. You know how worried I was."
She paused and gave the twins an apologetic expression.
I'm sorry I couldn't do anything. Even though I was supposed to protect you, But your power... It was amazing."
Slightly embarrassed, Minato turned away.
"What did we do?" "The power you used. We call it persona,"
she explained. Hamuko thought back to those black creatures.
"What were those things?" "You mean the shadows? They're what we're fighting against."
Yukari shook her head.
"We'll explain everything later. I'm sorry I didn't tell you before. I wanted to tell you that. I'm sorta like you."
The red-eyed twin sat up.
"What do you mean?"
Her brother, on the other hand, frowned.
"Why are you telling us this?"
Yukari gave them both a small smile.
"My dad died in an accident when I was little."
Hamuko's eyes widened as she saw a faint light glow behind her friend.
"And my mom and I aren't exactly on good terms. You're both alone too, right? To be honest, I already know about your past. But it didn't seem fair, so I wanted you to know about mine. It was back in '99. There was a big explosion in the area. Supposedly, my dad died in the blast, but nobody really knows what happened."
Minato's friend disappeared as he and Hamuko looked at each other.
"He was working in a lab run by the Kirijo group. Though, I'm hoping that if I stick around long enough, I'll find out something. That's why I'm going to Gekkenhai, and why I was there when this happened to you."
She let out a nervous laugh.
"Of course, I panicked and wasn't much help. It was my first time fighting them, too. I'm sorry. You wouldn't have to go through all this if I wasn't such a coward."
Hamuko shook her head.
"It's not your fault."
Minato nodded in agreement.
"We were scared, too."
Yukari smiled at their kindness.
"Really? Thanks. But still..."
She shook her head.
"And here I'm telling you all this the minute you wake up. While I was waiting, I thought to myself, I've been hiding so many things from them. As soon as they wake up, I'll tell them the truth. So thanks for listening. I've been wanting to share that story with someone for a long time."
Hamuko lightly laughed.
"It's fine, Yukari-san."
She looked at the clock hanging on the wall.
"All right, I'm gonna get going. I'll let the others know you woke up."
She started for the door before turning back to Hamuko.
"Oh, you don't have to be formal around me or anything. Us second-year girls gotta stick up for each other, after all."
She cast her light brown eyes towards Minato and nodded to him.
Same goes for you too. Whatever.
The boy shrugged as he smirked.
Yukari.
Relieved the boy wasn't upset with her, Yukari smiled back.
Take it easy, okay? Be a good patient. And don't hesitate to call the nurse. I'm sure she'll take good care of you.
The brunette finally reached the door.
Bye-bye.
Hamuko waved goodbye and before turning towards her brother. She was about to make a joke, but noticed he was staring at the closed door.
Is something the matter?
Minato met his sister's gaze.
Sorry. I was just thinking. She said we were just like her, but I don't think that's quite accurate. I've always had you, so I was just thinking.
He paused and sheepishly looked away.
If things had went differently back then during the accident, one of us would have really been alone. Is that what you're worried about?
Hamuko asked with a frown.
Among other things.
Her brother replied, keeping in mind Yukari's story about an explosion 10 years ago. That timing can't be a coincidence. How is this related to Mom and Dad's accident, though? 18 April 2009. Hamuko was careful to not get too far ahead from her brother as they returned to campus the following morning. She brightened as Yukari greeted them at the front gate.
Good morning.
Yukari smiled at the two of them.
Morning. You seem to be doing pretty well.
The red-eyed girl nodded.
Yeah, I'm alright. That's good.
Yukari looked at the boy trudging behind Hamuko. She quickly reached a hand out to catch him from falling.
Whoa, I've got you. Thanks,
he said as Hamuko also lent a hand.
How about you, Minato? Are you doing better than yesterday?
Yukari thought back to when the boy was discharged last night and how he stumbled through the hospital with a walker.
Not really,
the boy muttered, using his sister's shoulder for support.
Wow, even after all that rest.
Yukari tried to joke.
Is it difficult to walk? I'll be fine,
he replied as he managed to take a few steps without trouble. Once she was sure her friend was okay on his own, Yukari nodded.
Hey, sorry to add this to your worries, but Ikitsuki-san wants to talk to the two of you today. Come to the 4th floor of the dorm after school, okay? Don't forget. Whatever,
Minato said as the two girls helped him to class. By lunch, Minato regained most of his strength, and seeing how he needed to stretch his legs, he decided to head over to the nurse's office for a quick checkup.
Should I come with you?
Hamuko glanced up at him.
I'll be fine,
he reassured her. He noticed Yukari's dubious expression before subtly nodding over to Junpei, who was coming over. Catching the hint, Yukari immediately sided with the blue-haired boy.
Yeah, he's getting better. Besides, now we can have a girls-only talk. Oh, what?
Junpei's face fell.
Well, never mind then.
He turned to Minato with a smile.
Wanna have lunch with me, dude?
Minato shook his head.
Sorry, I need some air. Right, you just got out of the hospital.
Junpei gave him a sympathetic nod.
Well, if you need anything, just call your man Junpei. Whatever.
The blue-haired boy shrugged as he exited the classroom. Not having a clear idea of where the nurse's office was though, Minato slowly started towards the water fountains. He kept a hand on the wall for support and managed to get to his first objective without much trouble. Instead of taking a drink, however, he stared at the stairs going up. Without thinking, the boy's foot went forward and pretty soon, he found himself on the roof. Although slightly confused as to how he ended up here, he soon became distracted by the refreshing wind. He closed his eyes to better enjoy the fresh air. There's a nice breeze today, he absently thought as the door closed behind him. As it shut, the noise startled a person already on the roof.
Eep!
Minato looked up and saw a timid girl with teal hair staring at him. I've seen her before, Minato mused. His eyes widened when he saw the turquoise turtleneck sticking out from her school jacket. That's right. Uniform infraction 0. He mentally frowned at himself for such an unflattering label, but it wasn't as if he knew the girl's name. In fact, it looked as though he intruded upon something he shouldn't have, considering she was staring back at him with what seemed like fear in her wide dark brown eyes. Minato awkwardly cleared his throat.
Sorry. I was looking for the nurse's office.
The girl blinks at him in mild confusion.
The nurse's office?
The blue-haired boy sheepishly averts his gaze.
Yeah.
He shakily chuckles.
Oh. It looks like I got lost. I'll just be going now.
He turned around, but his legs gave up on him as he attempted to take a step. Before he knew it, he collapsed onto the ground and saw black. Once the boy regained his bearings, he opened his eyes only to the view of the infirmary's ceiling. His body naturally bolted up into a sitting position, but a gentle hand landed on his shoulder and made him pause.
You shouldn't get up so quickly.
Minato barely registered the soft voice speaking to him as he looked around in confusion. The girl from the roof stared at him with worried eyes. He saw himself reflected in them and immediately felt bad for making her worry. Taking her advice, he slowly eased himself upright.
What happened? You suddenly collapsed.
The girl nervously looked down.
I brought you to the infirmary, but Mr. Atagawa said it was nothing serious. Oh.
She straightened up and pointed at the medicine laid out on the bed tray.
But he did say you had to take that when you woke up.
Minato's hand went up to his forehead as he remembered his reason for wanting to go to the nurse's office.
Right.
He nods before bravely swallowing the odd concoction the school's eccentric nurse prepared for him. When he finishes, he takes a deep breath and waits for the medicine to settle before looking back at the girl still watching over him.
Sorry for the trouble. You're probably missing class because of me. Oh, Bella?
The girl jumped in surprise.
I only just brought you here. We should still have about 20 minutes left for lunch. Really?
He glanced at the wall clock and saw she was right.
Well, thank you for your help.
The boy lightly stretched and slowly got to his feet.
Sorry for taking you away from your friends then.
The small smile on the girl's face quickly disappeared.
Oh, no. It's completely okay, really.
Sensing he said something wrong, Minato awkwardly lowered his head.
I should repay you somehow.
He attempted to cheer her up. The girl's face went red.
You don't have to. I couldn't just leave you there. I wouldn't want to impose. It's fine,
Minato said with a gentle smile.
I just want to thank you for helping me and bringing me here. And I did disturb your lunch after all.
The girl's panic faded away. She slowly nodded in response, glad for the boy's kindness. She wanted to say something, but the infirmary door suddenly opened and a girl with light brown hair quickly stormed in.
Minato Yuki.
Hamuko glared at the blue-haired boy leaning against the infirmary bed.
You idiot. How could you collapse again? How'd you know I was here?
The smile that had been on Minato's face was quickly replaced with a mild frown.
Junpei told me someone in class saw you were being carried to the infirmary. I hope you thanked that person properly.
The red-eyed girl paused when she saw that her brother was glaring at her. She paused before noticing he shifted his eyes towards the brown-eyed girl in the room. The younger twin grabbed the girl's hand.
Oh, you must have been the one to help him. Thank you so much. I was beginning to get worried. I hope he wasn't too much trouble.
The girl seemed uncomfortable with Hamuko's actions.
Oh, no. He wasn't. It wasn't any trouble.
She looked over towards the clock and bowed her head.
I should return to class now.
She gave Minato one last look before leaving.
I hope you're better soon.
Hamuko stared after the girl in confusion.
Huh? Was it something I said?
Minato let out a disgruntled sigh.
It was something you did. In particular, You scared her off the moment you came in.
The older twin shook his head.
I didn't even get her name,
he said, voice leaden with regret. The red-eyed girl smiled mischievously.
Did she catch your fancy, Nissan? No.
The boy bluntly snapped.
I just couldn't properly thank her.
His eyes narrowed on his sister.
Thanks to you.
He decided to let it go though and started for the door.
Let's just go. I'm pretty sure you didn't finish your lunch yet. Sorry for that.
After school ended, Minato and Hamuko made their way to the fourth floor of their dorm as asked. They saw Yukari waiting for them already and the girl smiled.
Ah, there you are.
She worriedly examined Minato.
You're okay, right? I'm fine.
Minato huffily responded.
I'm still standing, aren't I? If you say so.
Yukari was still dubious, but Hamuko shook her head. I guess I don't need to worry then, Ijunya thought as she led them into the control room. Ikitsuki smiled when he saw the twins, sending a chill through Minato.
Ah, there you are. I'm glad that you're okay. The reason I asked you here is because I needed to talk to you. Please, have a seat.
The three sat down and Hamuko noticed her brother was a bit too close for her liking but immediately sensed his discomfort.
Oh, before that. I believe I mentioned him earlier, but this is Akihiko.
Ikitsuki gestured to the white-haired boy standing beside Mitsuru.
How you doing?
The older boy smirked at them.
Okay.
Ikitsuki turned back to the twins.
Let me start off by asking you this. Would you believe me if I said that a day consists of more than 24 hours?
Minato and Hamuko looked towards each other. Of course they knew that, but how much were they willing to reveal? Minato frowned a bit. Okay, I'll bite.
No,
he replied plainly. Hamuko's eyebrows scrunched together as she played along with her brother.
Excuse me?
Mitsuru lightly chuckled.
I'm not surprised by your reaction. However, you've already experienced this truth firsthand.
She levelly stared at them as she continued.
Do you remember the night you came here? You had to have noticed the signs. The streetlights went out. Nothing was working. There were coffins everywhere. Didn't it feel like you were in a different time? That's the dark hour, a time period hidden between one day and the next.
Dark hour, Minato thought. So that's what it's called. He continued to feign ignorance, however.
Hidden?
He shook his head.
I don't get it.
Ikitsuki nodded in understanding.
I know how you feel. Who would believe such a story? But I guess it's more like something people aren't aware of. But the dark hour does exist. It occurs each night, as the clock strikes 12. It'll happen tonight, and every night to come.
Akihiko stared at them with determined gray eyes.
Normal people don't realize it, since they're all sleeping inside their coffins. But that's not what makes the dark hour so interesting.
He nodded towards Minato.
You saw those creatures. We call them shadows. They only appear during the dark hour, and attack anyone not in a coffin. It's our job to defeat them. Sound exciting, huh?
The boy's smirk grew as his eyes gleamed in anticipation.
Akihiko.
Mitsuru snapped at him.
Why are you always like that? You just got hurt the other day.
Ikitsuki calmed the two.
Now, he does his work well.
He looked over toward the twins.
Long story short, with a specialized extracurricular execution squad, T's for short. On paper, we're classified as a school club, but in reality, this group is dedicated to defeating the shadows. Mitsuru is the leader. I'm the club advisor.
Mitsuru stopped glaring at Akihiko for the moment as she too faced the twins.
A shadow feeds on the mind of its prey. The victim becomes a living corpse. They're responsible for most of the incidents on the news, if not all of them.
Minato felt dread build up within him. I see where this is going.
How do you fight them? What about the police?
The redhead frowned sadly.
Unfortunately, the police can't do anything during the dark hour.
Ikitsuki nodded.
Although rare, there are those who can function during the dark hour. Some may even awaken to a power that enables them to fight the shadows. That's Persona, the power you both used the other night. The shadows can only be defeated by Persona users. Which means...
He extended both his arms to gesture to the entire group.
It's all up to you guys. I see,
Minato said, taking it all in.
I'm glad you're quick to understand.
Ikitsuki smiled. It did nothing to dispel the image of a skull from the boy's mind, though. Not noticing the boy's suspicious gaze on the man, Mitsuru and Akihiko approached the two briefcases on the table. Mitsuru nodded towards the other senior and they both opened the cases to reveal the guns the twins had used previously.
What he's trying to say is,
she began,
we want you to join us. We've prepared evokers for the both of you. We'd like you to lend us your strength.
Minato stared at the evoker before him. A part of him refused to accept the offering, but another part knew it was necessary. While he chose to remain still, to his left, Hamuko reached out for her evoker. He fully turned his head towards her and saw her red eyes fill with determination. It was the same expression Akihiko just wore.
All right.
The girl responded with a nod. Hikari let out the breath she had been holding.
Welcome aboard.
She turned towards Minato expectantly and her smile slightly faltered. Minato lowered his gaze back to the evoker.
I'm not sure I'm ready,
he honestly revealed.
Don't think too much,
Akihiko advised.
Just hang out with us for a while.
Mitsuru shook her head at the boy's words but looked at Minato pleadingly.
Please, we need your help. Wait.
Yukari was beginning to worry.
You can't ask him like that. Who could say no? I mean, it'd be nice if he joined, or...
Minato was grateful for his friend's concern. He finally made his choice as he lifted the cold metal contraption from its case.
Whatever.
He absent-mindedly pressed the gun to the side of his head.
I don't mind.
Yukari looked at him with confusion.
Does that mean you accept?
She let out a sigh of relief.
I was afraid you'd say no. I feel much better now.
Mitsuru nodded in agreement to the junior's words.
I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Satisfied, Ikitsuki sank into his seat.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad. Oh, I almost forgot.
The twins looked towards him.
About your room assignments. Why don't you just stay here, in your current rooms? I don't know what the holdup is, but I guess it worked out in the end.
He chuckled to himself as if he had just told a joke. Yukari knit her eyebrows together.
Hold up. But wasn't that? Oh, never mind. It doesn't matter anymore.
Minato raised an eyebrow, but soon he heard a mysterious ring in his head. The image of a tarot card flashed before his eyes and he made out the number 0. Fool. A voice echoed within his mind from the card.
Thou shalt have our blessing when thou choose to create a persona of the full arcana. A social link.
Hamuko absently muttered. The only one to hear her, Minato stared at the evoker in his hand. So Hamuko felt it too. His hand tightened around the gun-shaped machine. I made a promise, I guess. We'll definitely see this through. That night, Minato lay awake in his bed as the dark hour arrived. He wasn't particularly hungry given all the new information he had been told that day. No, it was best if he just slowly took it all in. Maybe he could get closer to the answer he was looking for. The voice of a young boy quickly snapped him out of his reverie, though.
Hi, how are you?
Minato darted up in his bed, resulting in the boy chuckling. The older boy responded with a suspicious glare.
And you are? We've met before.
The boy smiled back at him.
How'd you get in here?
The dark-haired boy placed a hand over his own heart.
I'm always with you.
His smile never wavered as he stared deeply into Minato's eyes.
Soon, the end will come. I remembered, so I thought I should tell you. The end?
The boy nodded.
The end of everything.
He furrowed his eyebrows.
But to be honest, I don't really know what it is.
That's not very helpful, Minato thought, but he felt himself speak.
Well, thanks anyways.
The teen was surprised by his own words. Whatever Minato thought didn't stop the boy from laughing, though.
I wasn't expecting you to thank me, but you're welcome.
He paused and tilted his head to the side.
That is what I'm supposed to say, right?
Somehow, Minato was beginning to feel more at ease. Whoever this boy was, despite his creepiness, his presence was calming, and it was much better than dealing with the discomfort Katsuki had given him earlier.
That's right.
Minato nodded. The boy seemed happy with Minato's answer before he noticed something about the older teen.
Oh, looks like you've awakened to your power. And an unusual power it is. A power that takes many forms. It is bound by none. It may prove to be your salvation, depending on where you end up. Do you remember when we first met?
Minato nodded.
I expect you to honor your commitment. I'll be watching you, even if you forget about me.
The older boy frowned at this.
Okay then, see you later.
As quickly as he had appeared, the boy was suddenly gone, as was the dark hour, leaving Minato within the darkness of his room. He slowly reclined back into his bed and stared at the ceiling for a while longer. And the questions continued to build. I guess I should leave them for another day. With that, he closed his eyes and tried to get some sleep.
You know, I'm actually a bit jealous.
Hikari frowned at Hamuko as they ate their lunch together.
I wish I had an older brother to look after me. You're lucky to have him. Yeah.
Hamuko smiled softly to herself.
He's the best anyone could ever ask for. I just wish he'd take better care of himself rather than focus all his energy on me. There are times when I feel like I'm the older twin because he doesn't take care of himself enough.
At that moment, Junpei violently slid the classroom door open.
Hamuko.
As she turned to look at him, she saw that he was slightly disheveled from running through the halls.
Is something wrong, Junpei? It's your brother. Kaz told me he saw a girl helping him to the infirmary.
Hamuko was immediately on her feet. She shook her head as she gave Yukari an apologetic smile.
Yeah, definitely times like these.
She quickly followed Junpei out into the hall. Seeing as her friends were leaving without her, Yukari decided to pursue them. Junpei nervously put distance between himself and Hamuko the closer they got to the infirmary, and Yukari noticed this. She could sense the angry worry her red-eyed friend exuded, so decided to stay back with Junpei.
Man, she's steamed.
Junpei nervously chuckled.
Yeah, I almost feel bad for Minato.
Yukari nodded. The two jumped when Hamuko exploded into the infirmary, yelling Minato's full name for the entire campus to hear. Yukari nervously chuckled to herself as she heard the younger twin berate her older brother. On the other hand, maybe being an only child isn't so bad after all. She motioned over to Junpei.
We should let them be. Yeah.
Junpei shivered.
I really do feel bad, but I was worried.
The boy didn't let it get him down, though.
Man, Minato's lucky to have such a cute little sister to look after him. They both are.
Yukari smiled.
But I don't think I could put up with the nonsense of having a brother, especially when I already have you to deal with during school hours.
Junpei pretended as if Yukari had shot his heart with an arrow.
Oh, I'm hurt. Is that how you see me, Yucatan? I'll have you know I'm more than capable of taking care of myself.
Yukari laughed.
Sure you are, stupid.
The two laughed together before pausing when Hamuko reappeared, dragging her brother behind her. The cat boy gave the red-eyed girl a confused look as she stomped past them.
Is everything okay?
Hamuko didn't seem to notice them as she continued towards their classroom.
I swear one of these days I'll get you to eat proper meals during the day. And I packed you a lunch today and everything.
Minato noticed their two friends and weakly waved. He groaned when Hamuko pointed up the flight of stairs they had to take to reach their classroom.
So hungry,
he complained.
Then hurry up and get. Lunch will be ending soon.
Hikari and Junpei shared one last smile before helping their friend up the stairs. End of chapter.